Fine-tuning shows us that the probability of our universe occurring by chance is far less than 10 to the minus 50th. Borel's law says anything with a probability less than that does not occur. So our universe did not happen by chance. The only explanation is God created it, as is, on purpose.
10 to the minus 50 is a very small number, but it isn't zero. Borel was giving a rule of thumb that if you have outcomes with much larger probabilities, then those tiny probabilities can usually be ignored. If all the outcomes have very low probabilities can't be ignored. For example, I like canasta. It uses 2 decks of cards with jokers, so 108 total cards. Let's make it more probable by saying both decks have the same backs, so we cannot tell the ace of spades from one deck from the ace of spades from the other deck. A shuffled canasta deck like that has a probability of 8.16 times 10 to the minus 158, which is less probable than 3 consecutive events with the probability stated in Borel's law. If that probability is impossible, then every hand of canasta is impossible cubed and then some. So you see, Borel's law doesn't apply if you have a huge number of equally or nearly equally likely outcomes, which would be true of universes if every possible constant could happen with equal probability.
An intelligence shuffled the deck, so an intelligence is necessary for low probability events to occur.
That's wrong. If shuffled by a human, that human's intelligence was not being applied to the final arrangement unless they cheat, and the final arrangement, if enough shuffles occurred, is random. Also, it could be shuffled by a non-intelligent source, like a machine.
Life-giving universes would be much less likely than life-prohibiting universes.
Unless a universe has a purpose as a life habitat, which assumes your conclusion making it a circular argument, life being possible in that universe or not is irrelevant. Also, we don't know if your assertion is true because we don't know the probabilities of the various values that the constants can have. We have a sample size of 1. For all we know, the constants we have could have a probability of 100%.
You were saying the probabilities were all equally low, and now you're saying 100%. Dishonest of you.
You are wrong again. You started this conversation with the statement that the probability of the universe is too low to be possible. I showed you that was wrong with an example. Now I am showing you it is wrong because we don't know what the universe's probability is, because probabilities require large samples to determine.
Okay, but what about life? We have a large sample of proteins. The probabilities one of them would form randomly is very low, and each cell has a large number of different proteins.
So you realize you lost the universe probability argument and are moving on to distract from it. We know from evolution that life randomly modifies what is there. If the changes work, they are more likely to make it into the next generation. Because of that, proteins can become larger and exhibit greater variety over time.
A protein just 39 amino acids long would violate Borel's law. Today, proteins are hundreds of amino acids long. Obviously, huge proteins are necessary for life, and clearly, huge proteins can't have occurred randomly.
Your calculation is wrong. Amino acids are hydrophobic or hydrophilic, polar or not, neutral, acidic, or basic. That means they can be grouped by their similar properties. Often one member of a group can be substituted for another and have no effect on functionality. So by functional equivalence, probabilities are much higher. Also, I told you, modern proteins didn't occur randomly. They evolved. The first life wasn't modern life. We don't know what proteins it used or how long their chains were. We don't even know if they used protein at all. They could have used other molecules for those functions. For example, RNA as enzymes.
39 amino acids is very short. Doubt life could have survived on chains that short or shorter.
I already told you, small probabilities are meaningless if you have a large number of equally likely possibilities. If there are large chains, their small probability would not rule out any of the possibilities. Also, Earth is a huge chemistry set. The oceans are 1.3 billion cubic kilometers. Even if only a trillionth of it had the right chemicals and energy sources, that would still be greater than the volume of a trillion E. coli. That's a lot of simultaneous possible events. Now for some reality. Probability does not rule out the universe occurring by chance if all possible constants are equally likely, and Probability can't even be calculated with a sample size of 1. Probability does not rule out abiogenesis, both because we can't calculate its probability without the exact data, and low probability events aren't improbable in large event spaces. If you think life should be arising all the time because of the large event space, keep in mind the Earth is less chemically active and radioactive than it was billions of years ago. Also, back then, successful new life didn't have old life to use up its resources and eat it. Reality trumps mythology.